According to A.S. Adams, the concept of using role-playing as a form of therapy has been around for many years, and with Dungeons & Dragons being one of the most popular role-playing games of all time, it makes sense that medical professionals and therapists would seek to utilize it as a way to treat their patients. And as a tool, Dungeons & Dragons has a framework that is meant almost tailor-made for helping people develop cooperation, social interaction, and frustration management. Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D, at its core is a team-based game. The way you play Dungeons & Dragons is you and a group of people designate one person as a dungeon master, and that person creates the world that the rest of you will play in. And everybody else is the party or the team that must band together to fight off whatever challenges or evils that the dungeon master might throw their way. Outside of the game itself, a lot of dungeon masters will cooperate with their players in order to help make the experience more fun by surveying their players or creating their worlds based on what the players want to see in it, and specifically their characters. Taking this to the next level, Adam Johns and Adam Davis, professional educators and therapists, use it in some of their group therapy sessions as a tool to help these developing children and teenagers with their cooperation skills. During these sessions, they will, when they get to a new city or they see a new monster, they will take their folder full of information and shut it, close it down, and they will go around and ask each one of the players there for an adjective or a phrase that will describe the city or monster that they've come across. Not only does this help get the people playing more engaged by being in a world of their creation, but it also helps them learn to make something together because of its one rule to not negate any other player's adjectives. Another huge part of Dungeons & Dragons is the verbal aspect. Most of Dungeons & Dragons is communicated by telling the dungeon master what you want your character to do, or by talking between characters about what you should do. And because of this, it provides an excellent framework for developing minds to learn their social skills and develop confidence. When a person role-plays as a character, that character often acts as a buffer between their words and the effect that those words have. This buffer allows that player to grow and experiment with their social skills and confidence in a way that outside of this might be extremely anxiety-inducing for the patients that come in. Another way it helps is that because you have to play as a separate character, it gives a lot of children the opportunity to think from a different person's perspective, as one of the most important parts of understanding empathy is to understand that you do not have the same experience as somebody else. And being able to act as another person is one of the quickest ways to develop it. Dr. Bochamazzo, a therapist who also uses Dungeons & Dragons as a form of therapy, has found that more often than not, the shyest kids that will come into those therapy sessions will, by the end of a few of them, be commanding and persuasive members of the group just in a few rounds. One of the third big structures of Dungeons and Dragons is its concept of how everything is done. Everything is done with the roll of a die, specifically a 20-sided die. And because that the outcome of an action is determined by a die, it's all up to chance. So in Developing Minds, it's an excellent opportunity for these kids to learn how to take failures in stride and deal with the frustration of having plans fall through. One of the core concepts in Dungeons and Dragons is what is called a critical failure. When you roll a 1 on that 20-sided die, it doesn't matter how good your character is at a certain skill. They could be the best locksmith in the world, but if they roll a 1, they just simply can't break it. It's an automatic failure, and because it has a 5% chance of happening anytime you roll it, the failures happen often. Adam Johns and Adam Davis, again, use this to their advantage by when a player fails something specifically critically, they will take this as an opportunity to make a new scenario out of it. Something that they failed so spectacularly, and something funny happens, or maybe it ends up helping them in a way they didn't expect it to. But all of it helps to have these kids learn to see the bright sides of these failures and to learn that it's okay to get the short end of the stick. C. White, in an article from the BBC, described a common concept in the Dungeons and Dragons community known as bleed, which you don't need to get a Band-Aid for this. Bleed is the concept of how much you affect your character and how much your character in turn affects you. And this is what a lot of roleplay therapy is based around. And because of it, I, in my experience, have been affected by playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, both in good ways and in not so good ways. Which is why I want to recommend this only through a professional setting, as with every therapeutic outlook. But you shouldn't be afraid to learn new things from any experience you do, whether it be in real life or in a fantasy world. Thank you.